with this Bournemouth win. Nicky, you must be concerned.
I'm really concerned, and I've got, you know, I've been saying this all season. I've got reason to be concerned. Our team and our manager is just not up to it. They've got no fight in them. The manager don't know what he's doing. He's lost the plot, and I've been saying this all season. And people were looking at me at the beginning of the season, calling me a fool. You're short-sighted. You've got a short memory, and now look, we're getting to the business end of the season, and we're looking down the barrel of a gun, in my opinion. And you go to Forest, you beat them 4-0, you think maybe we can turn a corner, and then you go in there to Brighton. And I was there at Brighton last week, Abby. One of the worst performances. No, not one of the worst. The worst performance I've ever seen from any West Ham side.
Ever.
Wow. And I've been going for a long time. It was gutless. It was spineless. It was set up to lose. I'm seeing discombobulation between the team and the management, and the board are just sitting there saying he's not getting the sack. We'll probably keep him in the Championship.
I heard that actually, that rumour earlier this week.
It makes no sense.
So what do West Ham do? Because you are now in that relegation zone because of this win.
No. Leeds are in. Yeah, we're 17th. We're 17th.
But it's all. Are you all on equal points?
Yeah, there's a point between it. A couple of wins today, a couple of draws today. We could be bottom of the league.
You're a point ahead of Leeds.
Yeah.
Okay, on 17th. In 17th. So it's very tight. I mean, there's literally 2 points that's separating you from the bottom. I don't even know what to say to you at this point.
But do you know what we've got to do, Abby? Cross our fingers and pray.
But even if you sacked,
I think it's too late.
It's too late to him. It's too late.
It is too late.
Yeah, they've set up their stall, and now they've got to deal with it, because the time to sack him. And I've been saying this all season.
Would have been Christmas, right?
I was saying sack him before the World Cup. When we lost 3 games in a week. We lost to Palace at home, Blackburn at home in the Cup, and then we lost to Leicester at home. And Leicester were rock bottom of the league at the time. Rock bottom of the league. I think they just picked up their first win the week before, and we got played off the park by them. And I said, at this point in the season, coming off the back of 2 good seasons, coming off the back of a Euro semi-final and all of that sort of stuff, I said, at this moment in time, you could get a progressive manager in, and your stock is still high at this point in the season. At this point in the season now, you're going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel for the Sam Allardyce.
Big Sam, yeah.
Let me ask you, because you mentioned the fact that you had the 2 good seasons prior. Obviously, football, the way football is now, you don't get much time in football. But how much time does 2 seasons buy you? Because on the back of 2 good seasons, to sack him, you're saying November, before the World Cup, October, November, you don't think that would have been harsh based on the last 2 seasons versus the first 2 months of the
I think it was quite obvious then, Nicks, that the players had lost faith in him. They'd lost faith in the way he was approaching games. They'd lost faith in the way that nothing had changed, despite spending that money. He spent £200 million to improve the side, and he hadn't even put the players in by that point. And you think to yourself, if you're spending that sort of money, you want people that are going to come in this side and make this side better. It's already a good side. And I don't think it's the fact that the players have got worse. There's a couple of players there that have regressed a little bit just because of their age, that have been there for a long time, that should have been moved on probably a couple of seasons ago. It's probably a bit like Tottenham and a bit like Liverpool and things like that. But the players that we did have, and it's now coming out this week, and I've been saying this for 6 months, that they've got no faith in him, and they think the approach to games gives him very little chance of winning. And I see a point in the game last week against Brighton at 2-0 where he called the captain over, which is Declan. He said so, he whispered something in his ear, and Declan threw the water bottle down and walked off, and he started shaking his head. Damn. And I've heard through the grapevine that instruction was, shut up shop, don't concede anymore. At 2-0. At 2-0.
I mean, if we had done
not good enough. Not good enough. He needs to. He needs to leave now.
Done with that,
I know, in hindsight. But I mean, I get it. Leicester fans felt very similar at one point in the season. They're talking get rid of Rodgers, and I also felt, listen, he's been good. You didn't get Champions League football when you could have, but you came 5th twice, won the FA Cup, obviously won the Community Shield, whatever. And But for Leicester, that's a good couple years, 2-3 years he's been there, and then obviously you have a bad season. The owners, I get fans and owners obviously don't always see eye to eye, and I guess with West Ham and their owners, they've always had a bit of something the last few years. But when it comes to Moyes, and it's maybe even relatable to Rodgers, it may be relatable to like Potter, for example, is that when there's no expectation or low expectation, they overachieve and they can deal with maybe a certain level of player and get the absolute best out of them and take them to the brink of success without crossing that barrier. Once the moment comes, whether they spend a lot of money or they go to a bigger club, in the case of Moyes, and maybe obviously at the moment in the case of Potter, and even Rodgers when he was at Liverpool, so the three of them, when the expectations rise, they're unable to raise their managerial, their coaching game to the level to accommodate the players that you need to get to the next level.
I think when you
bring in Paqueta, you've got quality players like Ben Rama, Lanzini maybe.
Scamacca.
Who you're not getting the best out of. But if you can, those players are going to get you to the next level.
I just think that you get to that point where these players come along and under someone like Moyes, they look at him and think, well, what am I going to learn under him? And when I'm not even playing, Scamacca has sat on the bench against Larnaca at midweek, and he played Antonio in front of him. Now, I know Antonio scored 2 goals, but I reckon I would have got one.
They were bad. They were standing off like
that's the standard of the football. Do you know
but the thing is, I think the fact that Antonio is his best performing striker is kind of testament to maybe the level that Moyes can, because when you have a player who's more maybe like Scamacca, and I don't want to diss Antonio,
he's good,
but he's good at something. He's good at playing in a certain way,
he's good at backs
style.
To the wall. Getting the best out of what you've got, making chicken salad out of chicken poo, as they call it. But when there's quality there, he doesn't know what to do. Look at Sebastian Haller. Sebastian Haller, for all his, he came from Frankfurt with high expectations. We bought him. Moisey come in shortly after, bombarded him out. Didn't know what to do with him. He sat on the bench and all that. He's a quality striker. He showed that for Ajax, and he's now showing it for Dortmund. He's a quality striker who never quite... I didn't like him because he didn't work hard enough for West Ham. And at the time, you think to yourself, it's, that's understandable because the method that he's using is working, So Haller leaving, it's for the greater good because, we can't fit a system around him when the system we're already using is working. We took a big loss on him. 25 million we sold him for. We signed him for near enough 50. Felipe Anderson was the same. He never. We took £2 million for Felipe Anderson. We paid £40 million for him. That is a huge loss. But then these players have gone on back to Germany, back to Italy. They're fantastic again. And you got to start to think.
And the same will happen with someone like Paqueta.
Yeah, with Paqueta and Scamacca. We paid a lot of money for them too. Are the ball going to sit there and think, well, it's his way and they've not quite worked under his way when his way isn't working now?
You see, for me, and maybe I'm a bit old school in my thinking. I like to see managers given time, even when things aren't perfect. Now, it's easy for me to say because my team's not in the relegation battle and dropping out, sitting mid-table in the Premier League and dropping out of the Premier League is two completely different things. West Ham can't afford to really get relegated, especially considering the squad that they've got, the wages, etc. Someone like a Bournemouth can afford to go down. They're kind of set up for that. But I think people like Rodgers, people like Moyes, based on even his history with West Ham, remember, he came in, saved you from relegation, you got rid of him. You brought him back to save you from relegation, and then he got you to where he got. So it's like he's kind of earned the faith of the board to do it. And I'm like, all right, maybe move him at the end of the season. But if relegation
is there only so many times though that can work? Because you've done it once, you've done it twice, and especially now having been here for the 2-year kind of period. Where Nick is kind of saying maybe the players have lost that kind of trust in his voice, lost that motivation. So that kind of freshness where when he does come in and that impact is there, it's almost now the opposite. It's a tired message where they're like, as you're saying, when Declan Rice is reacting, saying that's the complete opposite of what you want. If that,
I'll tell you exactly what it is. He's had he saved us from relegation. He's had that sort. We'll get some good players in next year. We'll really kick on. Get some good players in. Don't want to use them. Using the same tactics, setting up exactly the same way. We've been worked out. He's been worked out, and the players are sitting there thinking, I don't actually think he knows what he's doing when it comes to you know, the likes of Skamaka and Paqueta, and you know, he's meant to have a scouting system, you know. And he gets Paqueta in. He's had him for 3-4 months. He goes, I think his best position is just deeper. And I think I do more due diligence when I buy a car than when they're buying a player that's worth 50 million quid. If he don't know where his best position is, I'm sorry, but it's not good enough.